rappers over here on my wall. When I started out, before we get going, just a quick story. I did a show called Club MTV was hosted by a gal named Downtown Julie Brown. And it was a highlight of my career. I was 21 years old. And right after the show, I'm on this big high. I went to Pittsburgh to do my first concert. And I landed at Pittsburgh and I got off the plane. And when I got off the plane, there was a magazine rack with all these magazines. And on the cover of a magazine called Rap Pages was my face. And I'm like, I'm on the cover of Rap Pages. It's like, that's like for a business owner, it's like being on the cover of Forbes magazine. It was unbelievable. So I grabbed all these magazines. I'm like, I got to send it to my mother and my grandma. I'm going to send it to everybody. And as I'm checking out, I looked at the headline with my picture on it. And it said, "Are white rappers ruining hip hop?" And I was the poster child for that. So, you know, we all go through these moments of lows and we think we're never going to get out of them. And we somehow, if we have relentless forward motion and we keep chipping away, and we don't live in the past, good or bad, but we think about life through the front window, amazing things are going to happen. And that's what's going on in this quarantine. So what I want to do a little bit today is I want to share a little bit about my best practices and share some stories of my business journey. It's very unorthodox, but I think there'll be nuggets here that everybody can apply right now, immediately, and beyond this pandemic. I want to share a little bit about mindset, because nothing happens without the right mindset and the words that you speak and the power of those words. And then I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs here, so I want to just spend a couple of minutes at the end and give you about 10 to 15 key concepts to help you think like an entrepreneur, which is really important because you can't be an entrepreneur without thinking like an entrepreneur. So I want to give you some insight to some of the minds of people that I've been around and myself. I'm 51 years old. I've bootstrapped businesses. I've raised money. I've had exits. I've also had things that haven't worked. So in the next 25 minutes, I'm going to give you as much as I can, because like I said, this is all about value. So hopefully everybody here gets value. Let's start with this quarantine. Let's start real time. When I came into this quarantine, I had all these expectations. I'm going to write a book week 1 because I have so much time at home. Week 2, I'm going to do this documentary that I always wanted to do because I'm home. And everyone's telling me I should get so much done because I'm home. Week 3, I'm going to write another book. The second book that I always wanted to write, I'm doing that week 3. Week 4, I'm going to take all 10,000 pictures on my phone and I'm going to organize them because I have so much time. Well, here we are 15 days in and I've done nothing. I haven't written one single page of that book. And I realized that I was putting so much pressure on. I'm sure a lot of people here are putting a lot of pressure on themselves during this time to make these major shifts in our life and major changes. But the reality is I got enough pressure. I got parents that are elderly that I'm worried about. I got 4 kids under 10 that I'm worried about. I'm homeschooling my kids. So I have completely simplified this quarantine process. And I want to share my process with you guys right now because it's been super effective for me. I've simplified this process and I've taken the pressure off of these major things like writing a book in a week. And I said, I have 3 main buckets in my life: my business, my friends and my family, and my wellness. And I made a grid, April 1st through April 30th, down one column. And across the top column, I wrote business, wellness, family, and friends. And every day I try to do one thing in each of those buckets. So at the end of April, I can look at the grid that's filled in and I have no empty spots. Every day I'm chipping away because I know if I stay consistent throughout this process, I'm going to get a lot done. So what I want to do is I want to share some of the things that I'm doing in each of these buckets that everybody can do. And then I'll shift to mindset and talk a little bit about best practices and how entrepreneurs think. Before we do that, I just want to give everybody a quick background. If you don't know me, about my journey, a quick timeline. When I started out in business, I started out in the music business. I slept on 18 friends' different couches. I went from couch to couch trying to make it as an entrepreneur. I had a t-shirt company that didn't work. I sold meat, chicken, and poultry door to door. That didn't work. I had a jingle business. I was a kiddie pool attendant, all within the ages of basically 21 to 25. When I was 27, I started a private jet company called Marquis Jet with no aviation experience and no money and no airplanes. We took that business to $5 billion in sales, and we sold it to Warren Buffett's NetJets, Berkshire Hathaway's NetJets division. Got involved, as Pete mentioned, in a coconut water company called Zico, which we sold to Coca-Cola. I've written a couple of books, and I've had a lot of egg on my face along the way of my journey. But my business career started with a really interesting story that I want to share with everybody very quickly. And it'll be very relevant to what's going on right now during this time. When I started out on these 18 different couches, I was on couch number 18. The last couch, my last friend, and he said to me on Monday, you have to be out of my apartment because my parents are coming to stay with us. You can't be on our, sleeping in the middle of our floor. So instead of going to look for an apartment, that Friday, I went to my friend's bachelor party in Atlantic City. And I'm sitting at the bar and a girl comes over to me and she says, what's your name? Where do you live? I tell her my name. I said, as of Monday, I have nowhere to live. She says, oh, she takes out a napkin and she writes her address on a napkin and she hands it to me and she goes, if it's an emergency on Monday, you can come live with me. Monday comes, my friend says, you got to get out of here. My parents are coming. And I'm like, this is an emergency. So I take out this address, I fill up my one bag of belongings in my blue bag, I put it over my shoulder, and I knock at Melissa Katz's door, who I just met, and I lived with her for 6 months. At that point in my life, I had zero money, and I was making a living writing theme songs for pro sports teams. I would spend the money in the studio, write the song, and I'd pitch it to a team, they would either buy it, and I would make money, or I'd be out the money that it cost me in the studio to do this song on spec. So I had no money to do the songs, so someone offered me $10,000 for 10% of all of my future earnings. So I'll give you 10 grand, you give me 10% of everything you make for the rest of your life. I said, I'll take it. I didn't have a choice. I was desperate. So Melissa says, before you do that, go talk to my dad. Her dad, as it turns out, was one of the most successful businessmen in New York City. He owned a company called Kinney Parking Garages. And Kinney was the largest parking garage system in New York City. So I go to see her dad, and I tell her my dilemma, and he says to me, Jesse, I would trade everything I have in the world except for my kids for the one thing that you have. And I'm like, me? I have $118, Lou. What's that? And he said, youth. Youth, the process, the good, the bad, whatever you're dealt, figuring it out, going through the journey. He's like, you have to have an appreciation for the process. And he said to me, if you don't take the $10,000, will you make this business work? I said, Lou, I know I can make it work. He said, I didn't ask you that. He said, will you make it work? I said, yes, I'll make it work. He said, man, fuck the $10,000. Go make it happen. And as I'm leaving the office, and this is what I want to share with everybody today because it's relevant to these times, he stopped me, he said, before you go, this is honest to God happened. He goes, I got one question for you. Are you working out of my daughter's apartment? I said, yeah. He said, if you want to work at home like we are now, you better be incredibly disciplined and you better do these 4 things or you'll never be successful. He said, 1, you got to get up and get dressed every day. You got to start and feel like you're in business. Number 2, you have to have a dedicated place to work. Because during this uncertain times where there's no structure, you have to have structure. You have to have a dedicated place. So when you show up, you are where your feet are. You're mega present. You have to be where your feet are. Number 3, you got to make a plan the night before. You can't wake up in business and just wing it. The competition is too good. You got to map out your day the night before. And number 4, you got to block time. You have to have a dedicated amount of time that you do every single day. So during this pandemic, I've been sure to do those 4 things. Let's go back to my grid. So in business, there's a couple of very simple things that I've been doing to really move the needle forward. A lot of people have been saying like they can't have business lunches and breakfast meetings right now. And I've never had more lunch meetings. I'm doing them virtually. What I did is I took a little box. I took a fork, a knife, a spoon. I put it in the box. I wrote a note to my customers, to my prospects and said, hey, I'd love to have lunch with you. And I put this nice creative box and I mailed out thousands of them. People are craving attention right now. They are craving dialogue. This is a time during this crisis where humans become great humans. I'm taking inventory, Pete. I'm taking inventory of my friends that are calling me up during this time and checking on me. I'm taking inventory of the customers that are of the companies that are calling me and asking me how I'm doing. So I sent out this virtual because I want to be remembered at the end of this as a great human. I want to be remembered as someone that showed up for my friends. that showed up for my family, that showed up for my business. So I'm planting seed. I'm sending out these virtual meetings. Every day, I invest 3 minutes in what I call a 3-minute miracle. I sent a text to Coach K, the basketball coach at Duke, the other day. Coach K has a basketball camp for guys 35 and older that he does every year. I'm 51. I've been going for the last 16 years. And it's a 4 or 5 day camp. I sent him a DM. I said, Coach, I'm so appreciative of what you do. I know you don't have to do this for us, but every year for 5 days, you make me feel like an 8-year-old. And you've made these amazing friendships that I've had from the camp. And I know you don't have to do it. I just wanted to thank you. Send. Took me 45 seconds. Coach K can do 3 things with that. He might share it with his team and his coaches. He might share it with his wife. He might do nothing. But now I have permission, if I see Coach K at a lunch, to go say hello to him. I have permission to, when I go to camp and there's 500 people, who's the first person Coach K is going to hug? Me. Now that took me 45 seconds. If I send 3 texts like that a day over the course of the next month, that's 100 seeds that will be planted. If I invest 10 minutes, again, consistency, that's 300 emails, texts, or DMs to people that might hire me, that I want to thank, customers that I want loyalty to, employees that have done an amazing job. When I was 22 years old, Pete, I had no money. My marketing plan was to write 10 handwritten letters a day. I sent 3,000 letters when I was 22 years old. Because when people get a handwritten letter, when a kid gets a handwritten letter, it's like Christmas came early. And when you write a handwritten letter, there's a different intent. You got to write it, get a stamp, lick the envelope, go over to the mailbox. The universe recognizes the effort behind that. It's different than sending a mass email and hitting send. So this is a great time to write handwritten letters, to stand out from the rest of the crowd, to differentiate yourself. My point is, we're home. You don't have to take over the world, but you have to be consistent in advancing the things in your business, in your wellness, and with your family and friends. I'm interviewing my parents right now on Zoom. I set up a call with my parents. I'm hitting record because I want that gift that I can give to my kids when I don't have an interview with my parents. If I have my grandparents alive, I do it with them. This is a great time to do creative interviews for free on Zoom. This is a great time to call 5 to 10 friends every single day. So when they take inventory, they could say, man, you were a great friend and stood up during this time. This is the time to be a great human. So I just want people to be mindful. I just want to take a couple of minutes about the power of this time and, to take the pressure off of yourself and just chip away every day in the buckets that are most important. I talked a little bit about the top of the call about mindset. Nothing happens without mindset. I want to share a story with everybody that completely changed my life. Now, a lot of people tell you guys what to do, and there's all these lessons. I'm going to show you a very simple strategy that I think nothing has had a bigger impact on my life in the last decade than this. And then I'm going to go to the mind of an entrepreneur. And it's the power of the spoken word. And it was taught to me by a Navy SEAL named Chad Wright. And it has significantly impacted the life of myself, my kids, and my employees. I was training for an ultra marathon called the Last Man Standing. The format of the race is it's a 4.2 mile loop. You have an hour to complete it. If you finish it prior to that hour, like in 50 minutes, you have a 10-minute rest. Then they line you up again at the top of the hour and you do the 4.2 mile loop again. And you repeat that process until only one person is left standing. During my it can go on for days. During my training, I did 10 runs of 38 miles and I could not go one step over 38 miles. I was done. I couldn't do it. And I heard about this guy named Chad Wright, who took someone that had only run 5 miles and in a race took him to a 100-mile finish line by having him repeat thousands of times, I will not quit. I will not quit, Chad. I will not quit. And I thought to myself, if this guy could 20x someone's running just by that, he's got to be able to help me get past 38 miles. So I cold called him. He says, I'll come down there, man. In 2 days, I'm going to crush your 38-mile issue. He comes down and day one, he doesn't say one single word to me. He's got a long beard, a Southern guy, intimidating. He's a Navy SEAL, was a Navy SEAL. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, man. When's he going to teach me how to run and my cadence and how to breathe and what I'm doing wrong and change my stride? He doesn't say a word. At dinner, he says, tomorrow we start the mission at 0500, Jesse. At 4:45, let's meet in the kitchen and we'll go over the plan. I'm calling my friends like, this guy, man, this is the biggest waste of time. This is crazy. 2 days of my summer. We get down at 4:45 in the morning. He says, Jesse, we're only going to do 3 things today. And you're going to shatter your 38-mile issue. And you're going to double your business. You're just going to do this. He said, number 1, we're never going to give our pain a voice. No matter how bad we feel today, if I ask you how you feel, you're going to say, Chad, I feel outstanding. Because once you give your pain a voice, I'm not good enough. People are better. I don't have the tools. I don't have money. I don't have what it takes. Once you give it power, you speak it, you give it power. I feel outstanding. Number 2, we're not going to die in the chair. No matter what happens, we're going to die with effort. We're not going to sit down and be like, I quit. We're going to die trying because there's only 2 outcomes, Pete. 1, success. 2, we do everything we can to achieve our goal and it doesn't work. And either one of those is acceptable. And number 3, every loop, every 4.2 miles, you're going to say something that you're grateful for. We're not going to forget the opportunity that we all have. If you're on this Zoom call or Facebook, we're in a better situation than a lot of people in this world. We have a roof over our head. We'll get some food. We have electricity. We're going to be grateful. That day I did 57 miles. My friend Mark went from 25 miles, his personal best, he doubled it. Fast forward 30 days later, we're at the starting line of the Hennepin 100-mile race. Chad is by my side. We're at mile 73. I'm broken. I can barely walk. Chad stops me. He goes, Jess, this is crazy, man. I've never told anyone about this. This is a crazy miracle, but I never get tired. I want you to say it. I couldn't say it. I was exhausted. It would be lying for me to say it. He goes, I go, Chad, I never get tired. He goes, no, I want you to say it like you mean it. Chad, I never get tired, man. When we get to the aid station, I know you can't run. We're going to walk there. I want you to tell the people at the aid station you never get tired. We go up about a mile to the aid station. They give me some water. I said, guys, this is crazy. I never get tired. Chad and I never get tired. He grabbed me. He goes, let's go. We took off. And every mile I would say, Chad, I never get tired. I never get tired. And we finished that race. Boom, we ran the entire thing. This week, pay attention to the words that you speak. Pay attention to the people around you that say, this stinks. This is a crisis. I can't do this. I don't have the means. I can't write that email. I can't do that. And change the words that you speak. Because when you speak them, you give them power. When I yawn, I look at my wife and I say, I'm not even tired, sweetie. My son is highly dyslexic. The teacher the other day said, we had a great session, but your son is really struggling. I said, don't ever say my son is struggling. You're telling me he's working really hard towards his goal? Is that what you're telling me? And it just didn't click yet? The words that we speak are powerful, man. And I thought that was hokey. But I had a business plan I had the other day. I showed it to my wife. And I said, I really believe this can be a $10 million business. She said, shame on you. Why are you limiting yourself? Why are you limiting yourself? I said, you're right. I got my team back together. I said, man, come back in a week and show me how this could be a 20 or $30 million. Rip up the business plan. They came back. If we do this, that's the new business plan. The words that we speak, especially during this time, are so powerful. You can't be successful, which leads me to the next part of this conversation, without having the mindset. The biggest gift I got at Marquis Jet was not the wire they sent me when we sold the company and to NetJets, to this Warren Buffett company. The gift was the 4,000 customers we flew from the ages when I was 27 to 37 years old. They were the who's who of pop culture, the top CEOs, the best entrepreneurs that could afford to buy time on a private jet from us. And as a 27-year-old kid, I was obsessed with their habits. I was obsessed with what made them tick. And every opportunity I could get to ask them a question about how they live their life, I would do it. And I got about 15 traits that these entrepreneurs all had in common. And I want to spend the last 5 minutes of this call talking about them, because I don't think you can be an entrepreneur without thinking like an entrepreneur. And these are the ways, this is the things that entrepreneurs do. The first thing they do is they overcome the nature of self-doubt. All right, they beat it up through words. Okay, they tell themselves that they are capable. They don't get overcome by negative talk and self-doubt. That is a big common theme. The way you do that is you reinforce it. You get small victories. You get momentum. You start the process. Entrepreneurs start the process because they have enough confidence that they can figure it out as they go. They're not scared of what, if they would have said to me when I had Marquis Jet, you need Department of Transportation approval, FAA approval, then I'd be like, what? I was a kiddie pool attendant 3 years ago. But you tackle, well, let me get a lawyer that can get Department of Transportation approval. And then once that's done, let me get to the next thing. They don't get scared about what they don't know. Number two is entrepreneurs believe it. They visualize it and they believe it. They believe that this is going to happen. They believe, I used to always say to myself, man, I'm a millionaire. They just haven't paid me yet. I used to walk into my office and say to my partner, man, we're millionaires. They just haven't paid us yet. You got to believe it in your DNA, in your heart of hearts, that it will happen. Number three is entrepreneurs handle the lows. They handle times like this. They understand it's a point in time, but they're not stuck in quicksand during this time. They know that they can rise out of it. When I slept on those 18 couches, I knew there was a better life for me at the end of this journey if I had relentless, constant motion, relentless pursuit of my goal, which leads me to number four. Successful entrepreneurs and those that think like an entrepreneur, they don't negotiate their goals. The goal is unwavering, man. The plot changes, the script changes, but the goal, it's unwavering. Entrepreneurs, number five, bet on themselves. They're willing to bet on themselves. When I was young, I made a big bet. I just posted this on Instagram. I bought these crazy $350,000 Yankee tickets when I had $8,000 of net worth. And I would suggest people go into debt to do this. But I knew I could make them work. I knew I could entertain and take clients and it would pay itself back 3x if I could just have access to this great real estate. Entrepreneurs bet on themselves. Number six is they create their own luck. They put themselves in a position where luck will find them. They go to places where they can attract luck. Put yourself out there. Next, entrepreneurs become the expert. Whatever field they're going into, they become an expert. They become an expert on all areas of their business. Over time, they start with very little, but they have the confidence that they can learn exactly all the nuances of the business. Next, entrepreneurs and those that think like an entrepreneur invest in themselves. They take classes like this that Pete is offering with Rise Up. They go to conferences, they learn, they're thirsty to learn more. They have virtual mentors. Next, entrepreneurs respect the process. They understand that it takes time and they're willing to invest in that. They have a passion for the process, not the product. They know that part of the process is the manufacturing line might break. There's a hiccup in delivery, things get broken, but they're willing to call the customer and apologize and explain because they're passionate about the process and they understand that that's what they signed up for as an entrepreneur. I only have time for two more. I can add more later, Pete, but I have 4 kids and I gotta jump. Entrepreneurs start the process. They figure out how to get from point A to point B the fastest, and they start the process. Don't wait for 10 other people to take your idea. Just start. Get going and figure it out as you go. And lastly, they apply this process and these thoughts to all the buckets of their lives. Because being successful is not only being successful in one bucket. If you're great at business and you're rich, but you're a jerk, you're just rich. Really good entrepreneurs and thought leaders, success to them looks like being good at all the buckets of your life. Being a good father, a good husband, a good friend, and a good boss, an employee, and entrepreneur. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm happy to come back and share more.
Jess, I'm going to bring you back for part 2, bro. We're coming back for part 2. Can we do that?
Yes. I feel so bad. This is so not my style. but it was just, I know we wanted to do this, and this is just what works. So
Hey, in 15 seconds, because my goal is to give away $1 million to charity, and Sarah's is one of the very few that we're giving to. You're actually throwing in something as well to one of the packages for people. Just talk about that in 10 seconds.
the BYLR course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a program called Build Your Life Resume. It's my best practices in mindset, business, the struggle, wellness. It's a series of 7 to 8 videos. Sarah, actually, my wife, does a 1-hour segment on business. It's unbelievable. So I said to Pete, anybody that wants to take it, it's usually 500. I do sell it, but
Yeah, you do.
available for free. And you can take it. The next course starts this Thursday, but you can come in whenever. And it's amazing. Pete will tell you more about it, but it's I'm so proud of it. So I appreciate the